Hey guys, today I had the pleasure of sitting down with Dipashree, who is the head of partner marketing at Amazon, for which she was part of the early APAC team with Netflix, where she held seminal positions. It was a real pleasure. We look back at her career growing up in India to moving to Singapore, and I really enjoyed this chat as much as I hope you do. Cheers. Hi, Dipashree. How are you?
Very, very well, especially today. So grateful to be here.
Thank you for coming. You know, I was contemplating, I told you, wearing my pink suit jacket. Maybe I should do a wardrobe change halfway through the podcast. What do you think?
I just think you look fabulous as you are. But like, if you want to give me company, pink is always very well.
Well, I've got my constant Camrys here, but I got my pink pocket square.
So polished.
You know?
The gentleman in Singapore can take a cue out of your fashion sense.
Well, actually, funny enough, so this suit jacket, right? It's a double-breasted.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the backstory. So I was 14. I was watching 15, the 1993 Sports Personality Award in England. So it's the best or the most popular sports person based on their achievement. And Linford Christie was the Olympic 100-meter champion. 6'2", black, fantastic physique, and he didn't win that year. So the next year he became the world champion and he won. And he wore a suit like this. He can carry off a lot better than me because he's tall, broad shoulders, and it was a pinstripe, but it didn't have any lapels. And the funny thing is, I can remember seeing it when I was 15.
Wow.
So I went back to try and find pictures. There were no pictures. Shout out, look for the view listing. So I had to take screenshots, but you know, the image was a bit grainy.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get it, but that's what I was going for. But it's mad that I can remember.
Like, that's your core memory. You formed a core memory seeing.
Yeah. And it was only in TV once, but you know. So look, for the few people that may not know you, because a lot of people know you, please just, can you be kind enough to introduce yourself and a quick overview before we dive into your career journey?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on this amazing podcast. I have watched several episodes. I really like the way you do this. So about me, I like to think of myself as a marketer by choice and a storyteller at heart. My career is going to complete almost 22 years this July. I think it's time to retire, but there isn't enough dough in the bank to retire. Just
got to keep going, yeah.
Got to keep going for some years. So I have basically I like to bucket my career into 3 parts. So I've done a whole lot of marketing. And you know how people like to specialize? That's clearly not my domain. I've done all sorts of marketing. So I've done brand marketing, I've done consumer marketing, I've done content marketing, I've done B2B, I've done B2C across all sorts of industries. And I look back and I say, why did I do that? Like, why did I not stick to one kind of marketing, right? I remember this one ex-boss of mine once said that a good marketer should be able to walk into any room and within a few weeks or months be able to market that product. And I think that kind of stuck with me and said, I just want to be a good marketer, irrespective of what kind of marketing. So that's one part of my journey. The second, which I hold very dearly, is content. So I've been in content, a mix of broadcast and digital content for almost 5 to 6 years, both in India and in Singapore. And I know we're going to talk about it later. And the third part is partnerships, which is kind of my current role and also has been my role at other companies. I honestly stumbled into it. Mainly because I was kind of hustling at one of my roles in Singtel, and I said, we don't have enough to do the kind of business we want to do. So why not partner up? And I did know at that point of time that that's what partnerships was.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So those are the 3 parts.
That's fortuitous, right?
It is a lot of it. I mean, people talk about your career being super well planned. I think my end goal is kind of well planned, well desired rather. But I have always been very open to whatever route might take me there. So pretty intuitive in a manner of speaking. So I like working with people that give me positive vibes.
Well, listen, it makes a big difference, right?
Oh, 100%.
It just changes the game. Yeah. Talk about, so firstly, what a lot of people may not know is that you studied English.
I did, in literature. Yeah. I'm a graduate. I'm the least educated in my family, by the way.
Really?
I should mention that.
How so?
Everyone is a master's. So my mom is a master's Post that, she did I don't know how many specializations. She's a published author. My dad was also a master's. My sister's also a master's. I just stopped at graduation. And
It's so too late. You could always do it, right? If you want to.
but I've done like some courses here and there to upskill myself. I don't talk about them much. These are mostly professional courses. But like, no joke, every time I tried to do something, so I got it to Columbia in New York. I got a new job. I got into Manchester. I got a new job. I almost got into INSEAD as a school. I got a new job. So it's almost like the gods of the professional world do not want me to study further.
Did you, well, listen, I don't know. I don't think studying's overrated, but when you've got something that's real and tangible, that in theory that degree or master's is going to hopefully get you to, why wouldn't you?
I really do think, Paul, you're so right. Like, at some points, I do wonder, like, people ask me all the time, especially younger folks, that I have had the good fortune to mentor is a very strong word, but just guide in some way. They ask me, have I done an MBA? And I say no, and it shocks them. It's not that I don't want to. At a time where I wanted to, I didn't have the resources to, because I've had to take care between me and my sister. We've had to take care of our family as well. And then life threw many other challenges in the way. Now when I follow business theories and concepts very closely, I realize what a head start it would have given me had I had the chance to do it. But am I worse off if that I don't have an MBA? 100% not. It's an acceleration, but can you do without it? Yeah, if you're a hustler like me, you can.
Listen, I'm telling you, hustling is so overrated because I think underrated. Sorry, people don't think about just how if you have recorded the world's greatest love song, right, but you don't hustle and get it out on the radio much, you're not going to make it out.
100%, I agree. Like the fact that like your business, and I know that you do so much. Like the fact that what you have set to do. If today you didn't have this, this is a really good vehicle to build the business.
I hope so.
Like today is or a Saturday, you have a beautiful pool. You're gonna just chill in the pool.
Yeah.
But here you are.
I'm hustling. I'm working. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, it's someone asked me the other day, and actually my wife asked me a couple of months ago, have you even thought about what you're trying to do with the podcast? Why you set it up? I said, no, I just went out one day, spent $15,000 on equipment. You know, she didn't think about it. And you know, everything that I do, everything now is by design. Yeah. Everything is structured because I'm too old not to make sure that it works. I can't afford to lose any time. Yeah. And but one of the reasons that I had set up the podcast was really, I wanted to also encourage my children to realize, you know, if you want to do something, just do it and execute. Right? Don't listen to naysayers. And what's the worst thing can happen? And the funny thing is it's opened some doors because we don't know each other.
Exactly.
Right? It's the first time.
Literally find each other on YouTube.
Yeah. And you were gracious enough to pick up the phone and we had a great chat. Yeah. You know, so it's amazing. So tell me a little bit about your backstory. Where did you grow up? And then how did you come to Singapore?
Well, I grew up in a really small town in India. In one of the most ignored parts of India, if you will. It's the northeastern part of India, and is a beautiful little town called Shillong. And funnily, when I went to Delhi for my undergraduate, and I used to say Shillong, I kid you not, half of the people did not know where it was. Really, that's how ignored the northeastern part of India, unfortunately, is. And again, here's a little interesting tidbit I'd like to share. That part of India, or at least the state I am from, has a lot of Mongolian and Chinese influence and descendants. So I actually grew up with Chinese Indians, if you will, as my neighbors and friends.
Wow.
So
and by the way, my kids are all of us not quite that mix because I'm half Chinese, half Irish.
Okay.
My wife is a little more than half Indian. The other half is largely European.
That's your wings, the Gunnabi kids and the Madhuri contract.
And they're very lucky that they were born, they got their mother's good looks.
And the fathers. That's on me.
I don't know about that.
Is a good thing, but
by the way, Isaac and I went to Mongolia for an offsite a couple of years ago. And it was amazing. Did you ever go?
No, I haven't. But because I've seen a lot of it, simply because I grew up in that place where they are either directly or indirectly descendants, the ethnic people, and they were my friends and schoolmates and classmates growing up.
Amazing.
But that's where I grew up. It's beautiful. It's called the Scotland of the East. And it was the summer capital of the British when they were the overlords of India. That's where I grew up. Small, very humble family. Interestingly, my dad was a refugee from Bangladesh.
Okay.
Lost everything, came to India, was taken in by a very kind relative, and he worked 2 jobs to support his siblings, got married pretty late at the age of 40 after marrying everyone off. And then obviously we came into his life pretty late as well. Mom, like I said, is I think one of the most intelligent people I know. And is like I said, she was a professor of English literature, and a lot of why I love literature is because of her. Very disciplined.
What did she write books in?
She's a poet.
Okay.
So a lot of the poetry is actually spiritual and therefore far beyond the realms of my understanding. But yeah, so we didn't have much at all growing up. But like, I remember going to school and seeing kids carry this. Back in the day, there were this temperature controlled water bottles.
Yeah.
And like, as kids, you want that, right? Or you want the Barbie doll because everybody has that. And my dad used to say, don't compare water bottles. And even now, when I think that, should I have this? I can have this now. But then his words come to me. I don't think he meant only water bottles. He meant a lot of other.
So parents are the inner voice of their children.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, when you come from nothing, which he did in his case, it prepares you in a very weird way to be okay with going back to nothing, because you know you can do it, right? Then against the wishes of everyone, I chose English literature over engineering and medicine. The only 2 career options available to middle-class Indian children at that point of time. I think I was blacklisted almost. Like, how could you? You are a semi-intelligent human being.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Your future is bleak. But thankfully, I redeemed myself a little bit by getting into what is now and then the top graduate college in India, the Shriram College for Women. Pretty hard process to get in. Went in big city for the first time. And like I said, people didn't know where I was from. But well, if anything changed my life, it was those 3 years of college.
Wow. How so?
I was introduced to 2 concepts for the first time. I was brought up by a very progressive set of parents. My father was very progressive. So neighbors would come and say to him, oh, so you have 2 daughters. That must be tough. So he'd be like, no, they are equal to 2 sons.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it wasn't easy for him to deal with. But for the first time in college, I was introduced theoretically to the concept of feminism. And I realized that my father has been a feminist all his life without knowing the theory of it. I was introduced to the writings of Virginia Woolf, Maya Angelou, all of that. Right? So I realized that that's who I am. I may not be a flag bearing of that, but I am extremely, extremely passionate about equal rights, about equal wage, and about women being more represented wherever they are, to an extent that now the entire thing is full of women by design or default, right? And the second thing I realized, I think my dad already had told me this weird thing that you can be, do, and have anything that you want. You just have to want it bad enough.
Yes.
My college just cemented. It just said, doesn't matter where you're from. We know you're a small town girl, but guess what? You can be the general secretary of the students' union because you won that election. And to me, it was unthinkable. How can I? You don't even know where I'm from.
Yeah.
But you voted me into power. And then I got called and said, we want you to be the president of the student union. And I said, I don't like the politics of it. I'd much rather pick up a dead society and make it into something big. And I gave my friend the chance to be president. That in and of itself became like a life-changing moment because I suddenly realized that the big city is a perception that people sell to the small town people to scare you off.
Yeah.
It's just in your mind.
And it happens in the business world every day.
Exactly. So I realized I may just be the small town girl with the big city dreams, but I think I learned how to hustle there. So I'll tell you about the hustle. I used to get very little pocket money, obviously, because very humble parents and dad had already retired by that time. So I figured that if I had to live in Delhi, I had to earn my own keep. So I started going to debates, inter college debates, and earning money. So I had to win them in order to get some money.
Oh, you got prize money.
Prize money, right? So that forced me to become a really halfway decent public speaker.
But I feel bad for your husband now because you tell me, you know, I'm married to a lawyer and a professor, so I get battered every day. So he and I have this in common now.
So, and yes, but if you meet him, he is the more measured one, so he will hear me out and then he will say one thing that silences envy.
Oh,
so I'm like, okay, I've met my match.
okay.
But they are and friends for 50 years for that. So I learned that, and then I also got one of the biggest opportunities of my life in college. That I think that opened the doors of the big world for me. So the likes of companies like Unilever at that point of time never recruited from graduate schools. They would only go to the MBA school, the top MBA schools in India. Something happened that year and they said, we want to try recruiting graduate students because we think they'll be different. So we were essentially diversity experiments. We didn't know that. They didn't tell us that. So they came to our college and only 3 other colleges in all of India. One more in Delhi and one in the southern part of India. And they put us through the ringer. They did lots of interviews. And I remember being truly myself. I remember even starting the interview by saying, believe it or not, I still remember, I laugh on it, I started the interview by saying, I begin by believing in myself.
Well,
They flew me down to Mumbai. I met all the heads of businesses, all of that. And then suddenly I land myself in the management trainee program in one of the most prestigious companies in the country, if not in the world.
Yeah.
Unilever.
Fantastic.
I was like, sorry, but I don't know the first thing about business. The Ionic literature.
Yeah.
So I think that's how the college shaped me. It introduced me to one of the concepts that I hold the dearest to my heart, which is where I firmly believe that women are incredible, as are men, but we are so much catching up to do when it comes to equality that it disturbs me that it's even a discussion, right? Like it should be like, that's where we should begin. Everyone should be like my father.
Well, and if you think about it today, it's a hell of a lot better than it was from our parents' generation. You know, my mom, she was born in Singapore, moved to the UK, which was 14, went from being in a very wealthy family to a very, very poor family. And she worked for the civil service nearly all of her career. And she had a boss who said to her, this was when she was probably in her late 40s. He said, look, you're only getting this promotion because you're female and you're from a minority. And my mom said to him, I've only worked for 30 years or whatever for that to work in my favor, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, what an idiot to say that to her, right? Just showed how small-minded he was. So, yes.
He was certain by.
No doubt. No doubt. So then tell us, Unilever, what happened after that? Unfold the journey.
Absolutely. Everything fell apart. It's Unilever. The first year, I was like amongst the smartest brains in the country. Unilever was what was then called a day zero company at campus or at all of these best B schools in the country. Day zero means that some of the smartest brains get picked up and then day 1, day 2, day 3, whatever. I wasn't even familiar with this concept. And here I am and another graduate student and he's still in Unilever. My first few months were absolute utter shock, disaster. I was like, I don't know what to do because I don't have a master's degree lined up. I can't go back. Yeah, where do I go back? So they are talking supply chain, they are talking brand marketing, they are talking sales. And what they do is they do a 1.5-year rotation across all functions. It's almost like a mini MBA for you.
Really?
It's brilliant. It taught me everything I know. But then, can you imagine sitting in a room full of smart people who are like, so what is the LTV to CAC? And you're like, sir, LTV? What are you talking about, right? So absolute horrifying first few 6 months. And then I said this, okay, I don't know how to speak like you guys. Never going to be like you. And I think I developed almost like an abhorrence for how they used to talk. Like, No disrespect to anyone, but like almost like machines, they sounded like each other. So subconsciously, I decided to be more of myself, which I don't know if it's good or bad. But I decided I will do things my own way and I will learn and be like a sponge. So I went to everyone for help. I said, see, I don't know. So teach me what you know and I'll learn. I think I'm a fast learner, and if I keep the ego aside.
But a lot of people will lack the courage to go and ask for that help. Yeah.
I mean, I was all of 21. I had nothing to lose.
So,
I was not getting baggy pay.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting to travel around the country.
yeah, it's fantastic.
It's fantastic. Not too many people. And to be very honest, 2 graduates in the entire country got that chance. I was one of them.
Amazing.
So why not be humble about it and do it, right?
Yeah.
But the worst isn't over. The training gets over and then they assign you to your sales territory. What possessed them to assign me, an completely inexperienced sales manager, if you can call me that, after 3 months of training, to the country's largest sales territory, which includes the city Bangalore, if you're familiar with it, and other territories around it. At that point of time, had Moe. And I saw it. Was it blind faith? Was it like, no one wanted to go there? Because like, why did you do that? But we hadn't had a growth there for 3 years. There was this amazing lady sales manager who handed over to me. I remember walking into the room with 45 really seasoned salespeople. I'm 21, right? So obviously all of them are much older than me, in their 30s, in their 40s and all of that. And they looking at me say, is this a new intern? Yeah, I should be. I should definitely not be your manager.
Yeah.
But so you can imagine that I'm their manager, but that's how they think about.
Yeah.
So what do? And I don't know, but I think I learned my biggest leadership lesson on that day. I remember walking out and crying. I still remember the mall. I was standing outside and tears streaming down. And it's so dramatic. It started raining at that. So it's almost like Bollywood movies where like the music is playing and I cry. And I said to myself, okay, you have nowhere to go. You're pretty screwed. Your dad isn't rich by any stretch of the imagination, so you got to stake this out, right? So I went back in and I said, think of me as the intern? I don't know shit. But I know some things that you might not know. How about we partner up? Don't think of me as your manager just yet. What I do know is I can bring resources from the central office to solve some of your problems. I do not know what your problems are. Clearly there are problems because you've been in the red for 3 years.
Yeah.
What is the problem? Let's go find out. And they looked at me and said, you weird because no one's asked us what our problems are.
Yeah.
Now that's where the problem be. So we figured that there were tons of damaged goods. We figured that our distributors or resellers, as they were called at that point, were too unhappy with us because of the dumping that was happening. We figured that, and with no disrespect to anyone that came before me, it was just the way business was run at that point of time. And we figured that there was not much face-to-face relationship period. I had nothing to lose. I literally went to the villages, met the people. I even got told that, why are you doing all this? You should get married.
Yeah.
And then one of the distributors said, I don't want my dog to grow up to be like you. Park was like, oh, this job is really working out for me. But Paul, I'm telling you, in that 2 years where I was a sales manager, I think I learned everything I know about Dipashree. Imagine having a 45 people team, all of them bolder, more experienced. Imagine having distributors looking at you and deciding you're not capable. And they should. I'm 21 years old. Yes, I had a training program at invaluable because Unilever thinks I'm smart. But why should they?
Yeah.
Now I know why I was given that territory. 3 years in red, maybe the smarter people didn't want to touch it because they want to get their promotion and their incentive.
Yeah.
What if you can't turn it around? So I look back and I say, had I not been given that lesson,
Yeah.
I would have been half the person, let alone the leader that I am.
Well, listen, they obviously saw something in you, right? And there's a tiger in there for sure. Right? So what happened? How did you unfold it?
I really just partnered up with my team.
Yeah.
Like I will fight it. I actually am friends with 3 or 4 of them even now. I really are in pretty senior leadership sales position. I talk to them every now and then. I think at that point of time, this is 20 years back, so there is no replacing face-to-face relationships. I went and apologized to the distributors. We took back a lot of damaged goods. We put a system in place for saying if the goods are 90 days and above, we ever take them back. So obviously I had to do a lot of supply chain correction with the central office, but we did that. And one thing that I realized to date is make a new launch work. So when you're launching a new SKU, that we used to call it, make that work. Ensure that you know who your top 10 distributors are. Ensure they know how to launch that product. So I went a lot by what I had learned in the first 10 months in the company during the rotation program. And then I said, let's apply what I know, but I'll lead by what you guys know and what you haven't had a chance to do.
And you gave them a voice, right? The guys in...
For the first time, I come so. And then they said to me that you are asking us for our opinion. No one has done that.
Yeah.
They all came in thinking they knew that place very well.
Yeah.
But the fact that our voice counts is weird.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but you know the market.
You were probably more impactful not knowing, because if you'd been in the job for 10 years, you'd probably go and assume things.
That's assumption is the mother of all fatality. Yeah. I firmly believe that. I went in as a rookie, and I don't think I can call it a success. But did we manage to turn the area around? We did. We broke even. But how? I don't think it's my trick, it's their trick.
Yeah.
I was hands up. I said, I will enable you, but you do the thing. You own the relationships. I don't. I will just be the enabler, and you tell me what you need to be enabled. Because let's not pretend for a second that I know that business better than me.
But great leaders do that. They remove the roadblocks from the path. They facilitate the team, as you said, enabler. Wow.
I didn't know it. I was just like trying to survive, to be very sure.
So what happened after this gig then?
So after that, I did brands for a while. Worked on two of my favorite brands. And we'll talk about that later. I do have a question about which campaign and stuff. And then, believe it or not, I actually took a 60% pay cut to do what I always wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah. I was due for a promotion, I still remember, and I just said, I want to do, this is all great, thank you so much, but I want to do content. I want to be a journalist.
Yeah.
So I walked into, thanks to a friend who's an entrepreneur now. He was at the TV station at that point of time. I said, can you introduce me to the editor? Because ideally that they're looking for some business correspondence and I could, do business stories. So I walked into his booth and I said, I could do business stories. He said, and what's your experience with journalism? I said, I'm a national level debater. I've spoken to thousands of people live. You have never spoken to a camera. He said, okay, we'll give you a shot, but what will you give in return? Like, what is your gift to this guest? I said, well, I can do branded content. He said, yeah, when was the last time we did that? I said, well, if you give me a shot, only then I can.
I love it.
Only then I can do this, right?
Yeah.
But thanks to that man, I still hold him in one of the highest regards. He gave me that shot.
Yeah.
So I did both. And the next 5 years, I think probably one of the best 5 years of my life. Like, Paul, when you walk into a room, I used to say I will die in the newsroom. The live energy, chemistry of the newsroom, news breaking. I have not done news, but like I have been in the PCR, the production control room. I've been behind the camera. I've been obviously in front of the camera.
See what's going on.
I have covered the Indian general elections, which is like they say, the biggest movie of all the times, with all due respect. I had the privilege of meeting at that point of time who were some of the biggest business names, CEOs, etc. Kind of try to get into their minds. Like, I'm sitting across you now. I've interviewed them. And then at some point of time, I told myself, this is all great, but I want to learn every part of the business. Because if ever I want to run this as a business,
need to understand
everything.
Yeah.
How does the PCR run? How does the camera division run? Then I realized that all of that aside, how do you run the business of content? How does content make money? How do you backward and forward integrate it? You need to know that. Because you can make, like you said, you can make the most brilliant piece of content, music, and not put it out to the world. I don't care. Or I can write, shitty music, market it really well on Spotify, and be in the top 100 billboards.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned to do content monetization. I learned to pitch content to banks, to airlines. And then they'd be like, so are you going to be the one producing it? I said, yeah, I'll produce it. So from pitching to producing to presenting some of them, I've done all of that. And then I decided to move to Singapore in the middle of the...
How did that come about? Was it with your husband?
yes, it was with my husband at that time.
Okay.
My husband, which unfortunately did not last.
Okay.
So we moved, and I left that very, very, like, I loved that job with my heart. Like, I used to be on the edit table at 1 a.m. at night, and like, you couldn't peel me away because that's how much I loved that job.
You were all in.
I was all in. And then I came here. I was telling your son a little while back, I started work at a really small production house, and I'm very thankful to them for giving me that opportunity in the middle of that recession. But imagine the dystopia, almost the disconnect, where when I left, I was told that don't leave because we will offer you a massive chunk of the evening band. And what used to happen, and I know it feeds the ego, right? I was at a stage where I used to walk into restaurants and pubs, and I used to see my show being played because we were on the top business channels, and people used to recognize me. And to give all that up for someone that betrays you is just earth-shattering. Like, and my world just fell apart after like a year and a half.
Wow.
But again, my job said, like, I got hired into Channel News Asia, a part of the Mediacorp group. Again, you couldn't peel me off because I was on the edit suite at 1 o'clock at night. I was setting up the digital team. And I swear to you, if I did not have that, and if I did not have my team, that betrayal would have just made me a different person. They don't know, but they saved my life.
Yeah.
They saved my life because they gave me a purpose to get out of place. So everything went. The fancy condo went. The fancy lifestyle went. And I can be open with you. A journalist anywhere in the world doesn't make much money. Yeah. I hope it's better now, but back in the day, it was precious little. So then I had to find... Again, I actually lived on my friend's couches for 6 months.
What, by the way, why? I'm so glad to share my story because I've got 2 daughters, as you know. And the one thing that, my mother taught me and I'm trying to teach the girls is that financial independence is very important for women because, if you're in a marriage, you want to be in a marriage because you're happy, not because you have to be, right? And if things go pear-shaped, as you know. So please, sorry.
Oh, 100%. And I'll talk about it. I'm doing something about that as well. I'm very, very passionate about women getting the money and getting the back. Yeah. Oh, and there are just, I'm so glad you're teaching your daughter that. I don't think our parents knew enough to teach us that. Yeah. But my dad told me 100 times when I was moving to Singapore, do not move without a job. Do not move for a man. Imagine for a father to say that.
Yeah. Very, very good advice.
But I did not follow it. So, okay.
Young love.
Young love. Anyways, so, I went from living on my friends' couches and having absolute panic attacks to like this job really giving me purpose. And somewhere when I asked one of my closest friends, she's moved to Berlin now, and I lived in a house for like almost 2 months. I said, why do we do this? Why are you and I here at 1 o'clock, like when we could be out doing anything else? She said, because if you and I don't do it, it won't exist. We are creating something. This that you and I are doing will help someone.
Hope so, for sure.
Right? That's the beauty of content. Yes. That's why people are addicted to the likes of Netflix, Prime Video, everything. Which is why it is so meaningful. It's almost like an emotional thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you and I can never not do content. Right? Okay. So part of it is... So I remember telling myself that I am living in people's couches and their guest rooms today.
How old were you at the time, roughly?
I just turned 30. So this is about like 12 years.
So that's a tough place to be at that because hopefully normally at 30 things are coming together.
Yeah, and they broke apart completely.
Yeah.
And I told myself that I contemplated living in Singapore actually because it's easier in India. Because I'd have my family to support me, not financially because I'd still be responsible, but at least emotionally, and I'd have a place to stay for sure. But then I said to myself, I am not going to leave this place that I love so much. Not going to be forced, never going to leave a man. Let a man make me leave this place. I will leave it when I want it. And I will leave it when I'm living in a penthouse.
Yeah.
So,
On your terms.
on my terms. And it did happen. When I went back to India before the pandemic with my Netflix stay,
Yeah.
I was living in a penthouse.
That's it. But
No, and I was like,
all the way.
and now when I see your house, I'm like, okay. So that was a pretty tough phase, to be very honest. But I remember thinking that a relationship, the wrong relationship, not all relationships, it didn't sour me in any way. It made me careful. But I'm an eternal optimist. It can turn its back to you. And I love that you brought up the financial independence. I was not independent by any means. I am fiercely independent now. But your career will never turn its back up if you give it your love. So that's why
It's a great soundbite. That is spot on.
if you give it the love and the hustle, I have never woken up on a day and said, look, my career looking at me and saying, baby, we are done today.
Yeah.
No, it's just given me more and more.
You know what's really interesting, because I grew up in a very poor family. So I was already working from a very young age, in particular helping my dad with his business. He was a builder, and money was very tight, and he had a stroke, and I had to start. I had to start at 14, and then he was on the wrong medication for 2.5 years. So he was in Ireland. Sorry, in England. He's from Ireland. We're in England, and it was a really rough time. And then when I was 17, my mum said, I was in college doing my A-levels, and she said, Di, you're going to have to get a job. But this was Friday night. You're going to have to get a job on Monday. And I think I might have to drop out of college, and it's got to pay weekly. We can't wait till the end of the month to get paid. And back then, there were high street agencies. They couldn't have made agencies.
Yeah.
And I went there, and the only job I had starting that day, I said, this got to be today. So, and I need to get paid at the end of the week. They said, we've got a job as a cleaner in a hospital. I said, yes, please, I'll take it. And and then they said, you don't even ask how much money, right? So I said, okay, how much money? And what was funny was at the end of 3 months, I worked in hospitals. So I learned color coding from working in the hospitals, because they had to clean very specifically. And at the end of that, what happened was, I was handing in my timesheet, and the phone rang, and I said, good morning, HMS Services, how can I help you? And the manager there said, what the fuck are you doing? I said, I'm answering the telephone. You really, what does it look like? This is in England, right? I said, well, it's a bit punchy. And he said, you speak English? I said, probably better than you do. And because all the cleaners there were foreign refugees, right? So he said, what's your story? So I told him, and he said, you want to, get a job in recruitment? And I said, what's that? And then he told me, and I said, if it gets me out of the latrine, yeah, for sure. But then what happened was, I didn't mind, I would do anything, but I wanted a bit of recognition, right? In terms of financial compensation. I don't care what the title is, I want to get paid. So I said to my boss, I want some more responsibility. I want to get paid some more money. I need to earn some more money. And he said, no. And I said, look, I respect you, but if not, I'm going to take your job. Right? He said, you think you can take my job? I said, I know I can take your job. Right? I'm a better sales. But
You were just 70 at that time.
Yeah. And he said, you're welcome to have a try. So I won a contract. And I've told this anecdote before, but it was a great story. So I had a gig at the Institute of Electrical Engineers where I would provide all the wine waiters, silver service waiters, sous chefs, you name it. And I became qualified in all of those areas in a very short period of time. So I'm 18 now. And we had to provide wine waiters to work 4 nights a week. And on the day of itself, the inaugural event, 3 people didn't turn up, right? And I'm thinking, we're down to like half an hour away. What am I going to do? So I'm calling all my university friends. My brother's already working for me. He was only 15 at the time. A couple of his friends, all my uni mates. and I've got £250 in the bank. That's my total net worth. And at the time, I thought I was quite rich, by the way, because I'd saved that.
Yes.
So I went to a shop like G2000, but even, very low level. And I bought 3 waistcoats, 3 black pants, 3 white shirts, 3 bow ties. And I'm still thinking I'm going to be able to get through to somebody. Anyway, it's not happening. I go into the pub for a pint, thinking game over before it's even begun. Then I'm there and I'm looking at these 3 South African guys, and I've spoken to them before, and I say, hey guys, how much do you earn an hour? I said, you know what? I've got a gig for you, paying £6.80 an hour. They were getting paid £4.50. Cash in hand tonight, but you have to leave right now. So what do you mean? I say, you hate your boss. He's an idiot, right? Tell him to F off. We leave now. They said, right now. I said, right now we're going to go to work. So we left. I'm going down the stairs, right, by Embankment in London, filling out a health declaration form. So I said, this is white wine, red wine, Port, Madeira. This is how you serve, even though they worked in a bar. And if anyone asks, you've been working for me for 6 months, right? And we rocked up, we delivered, no problem. And then, but I didn't even know what hustle meant, but I was hustling. And hustle is, I think it's the difference. And especially, like Singapore has been kind to us. But here as a foreigner, when you first come here, you don't know anyone.
Yeah.
So you can't call in favors. No one's picking up the phone for you. So you have to build a network and hustle. So it speaks.
I literally imagined all of that as movie.
It was brilliant.
Literally, as you realize that's like a scene from a movie.
I mean, I've got a lot better stories, but half them I can't. They're N21 rated. So
I ethics. I see it all.
you have. Well, then talk about the next part of your journey, right?
Yeah.
After that, what happened?
So it's interesting. So I think I figured out life on my own after that. You quickly do. Adversity is your greatest teacher. And I have my friends in Singapore to thank for that. So for anyone that thinks that they cannot, you can. Yes. So you have to just have like your really solid group of friends and your faith in yourself, your God, whoever, if you believe in a God, scrape if you don't, just yourself. So funnily enough, I was at CTEL when Netflix came along. This is June 2016.
How did it come up?
So I'll tell you, my father had just passed away.
Oh no. Okay.
And as you know, I'm super close to him. I mean, I say am because I still see him in my dreams. So I think he's still around. He's my director.
Yeah.
Feb 2016, he had a stroke. His second or third. And that's what took him away in April 2016. And Ari, I was having a really great run at CTEL. So good that they even said, you can go back to India, look after him for as long as you want to, but come back.
Wow.
Do not go back. But I was like, hey, if he becomes disabled or paralyzed, I need to be there to take care of him. So I had started looking around for jobs, etc. But then he passed. So my mom and my sister said, just go back. Like, you have a life which you have rebuilt. And you have this tiny studio apartment, 300 square feet, which is like party central.
Just enough for your tequila and stuff.
And then, like, literally, my best friend, 5, when he turned 40, and I dug up pictures of her 30th birthday in that apartment.
Wow.
So that's how long back, right? So I come back, and I'm obviously back at work, and everything's fine. And love it. I love that job. I love that company. Love the team. Had a big team leading that team. I get a call, and I just downloaded the app because Netflix had gone global in Jan of 2016.
Right.
And gone global means, like we used to say, the ex-CEO, we turned the switch on. But not all services were big, so it was still pretty janky. So I downloaded the app, and somehow I couldn't figure it on my TV, on the Redden House TV. So I used to watch it on my phone. Then I get this call, and they're like, hey, so we really like the work that you've been doing at Singtel on partnerships. And I was barely active on LinkedIn, but I used to put up like whatever partnerships, events and stuff, PM to me stuff. And that also was hustling, by the way, because we realized that I was responsible for ad revenues, and I was the pre-sales team. And there's to go with the sales team to pitch. They used to say, you're our lucky charm, you come with us. I'm like, so, but you are the one getting the commission. I don't just want the commission. But like, yeah, happy to help. And then I go and say, we don't have enough inventory. We need to partner up with other publishers, other apps to sort of kind of buy the inventory. So like TV channels, etc. So you've done that. So that's how Netflix, I think, found me. My response, and I'm still friends with the recruiter who called me. In fact, just met her a couple of months back. I said, is this prank call? I just downloaded the app like 2 or 3 weeks back, and you just like calling me because
Bananas, yeah.
She's like, yeah, I know it's not a prank call. Quite like your profile, and we'd love to meet you. It's a small office. Would you like to do like a virtual call? Your hiring manager, who's my mentor now, would like to do a call with you. I was like, what? And I still get goosebumps talking about it because I'm thinking, I've heard Netflix hires the best people.
Yeah, the creme de la creme, right?
The creme de la creme. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not that. What the hell, right? So I went through 9 interviews.
Only 9?
Only 9. In 3 months, because obviously people are traveling and stuff. And went to the first office. Our first office was at NPSC. And then, it's a small office, but pretty impressive. And then got hired as employee number 45 in Asia. How I know this was on the Xerox machine.
Okay.
There was a number behind before my name. So I
Giving away your age, and he said the Xerox machines.
Oh, shit. So sorry. And what do I call it?
Photocopy, no, I'm from the 00 space, so
I actually asked a colleague, what was this number? And she was 44. She said, you are employee number 45 or 44. I was like, oh, that's for that's a poor memory, right? And it was insane. Like, I can tell you, if there is a pivotal moment in my career, it's that. It's like the first 3 years, I didn't know where I was living, where I was eating, which flight I was on, which country I was on, but I changed as it was.
Well, listen, you're part of something.
Yeah,
you know, there is
something.
And on an astronomical level.
Yeah, and you think you're at Netflix, so, you're the cat's whiskers, you're not. So, Netflix is very well known at that point of time in the West. Yeah. But in the East, we had doors slammed on us in India, where I will not name the CEO. He said, so you want us to spend our money on marketing Netflix, while all you bring to the table is your brand and the content. Understandably, at that point of time, the brand and the content were not what they are today.
Yeah.
But Netflix expectation was, this is how we meet in the middle. And he said, you may be a C. I still remember what that felt like.
Yeah.
But to have built the business from there, and I was almost going to jokingly used to say I'm going to cut my 7th anniversary cake before I left and joined Amazon. But I'll tell you how it changed me, Paul. It taught me that maybe chaos is my spirit animal. So I'm actually a very organized person. So I knew that I was going to come here today. So I knew I had to run 2 errands in Orchard. So it's a bit shocking how much I plan. But then I realized that creativity is often born out of chaos. Yeah. If you will plan everything out, you don't leave any room for the irrationality. Yeah. And Netflix is big on creativity, big on irrationality. Yeah. So there have been times when we have built the entire thing out, taken it to the room, discussed it with the entire team. One person has come in and said, but I haven't thought of this. And out goes the entire thing. Because creative excellence, the second thing I learned at Netflix, is something that we used to prize a lot. If it's not excellent, you're not going to do it, however many times it takes. Worked perfectly fine for me, because that's exactly what they taught me in my broadcasting, saying if the piece of content is shit, you will rewrite the script. Yeah.
Well, that's the difference, right? They're clearly the thought process is organic, but it's cutting edge. I mean, what you guys have done, and then it brought you back to India.
Yes. So I was part of there were some 2 or 3 people that got that chance. I put my hand out for it. We were building the India business, and I still jokingly said, I will go, but if you let me launch this specific show.
Oh, and why that specific show?
Oh, because it was insane. It was an iconic show. It was the first local original, the Indian local original for Netflix in India, and the second season was about to launch. And I said, I will go, but if you make me the lead on that launch. It's called Sacred Gapes Season 2. And I launched Sacred Gapes Season 2 with this incredible tea. Cannot ever take the credit for it. So I was the lead title manager of that. Oh my God. I remember walking into the room on the day that the campaign launched, on India's Independence Day launched. I'm not kidding. The app broke.
Really?
The app, the Sota also got on because two Oliver tried signing up on that day. So
But that's that. But listen, that is a good way to announce yourself, right?
Yes, correct. But like you didn't expect that, right? And I don't think any of us saw that. And then, of course, we learned a lot of hard lessons that our payment systems had to be more robust. Because a lot of people complained about how they were not able to use like different forms of payments, etc. But I think if you ask me, the third and the most important lesson that Netflix taught me was to be, I don't even mean that as a rhetoric. I have become very comfortable with discomfort. I tell you why. Because the person that entered Netflix and the person that left were completely different. When I entered Netflix, I needed to know everything. Okay, what's going to happen? Who am I going to meet? Blah, blah. Now I'm just like, I got into a police cab in Bali and my husband is like, who is this human being? Why is she getting into a police cab? I said, yeah, they're just going to give us lift. It's fine. Come, they're not going to kill you. So, I obviously that was a frivolous example, but to me, I will do something. Like you said, as we get older, we need to be more structured.
Yeah.
But I do think if some things can be structured, it gives you the springboard to take really big risks.
Yeah.
And I think that it is thanks to the ability to be very uncomfortable, to have really uncomfortable conversations, to take feedback that you never thought you could hear. Like I thought I wrote really well. And I wrote, and then my boss looked at it and said, please take this shit out. And rewrite all his sitting here.
What was your reaction in the moment?
I cried.
Really?
I was like, what? He said, just because you've done literature doesn't mean you write well, but there is no matter, there's no substance to this.
It's a different format, right?
It's a different format. So you learn a lot. And I think the most fun part of the job, like you said, like the reason I said I've seen it all is because a perk of the job is even if you're part of the marketing, you read the scripts of future shows so that you can comment on the marketability.
So you're putting your Bollywood hat on with this one and loving it, right?
Well, that was a love and hate, to be very honest with you. I think I could take Bollywood to a certain extent. I loved the spice of it, not quite the politics of it. I wish more professionalism.
You could be that, but...
Oh, really? And that's such a compliment. But I think that ship has really sailed. They're not...
You never say never, you're not.
The role of a mom, right? At my age, I think they're now casting grandmoms like here. They're not grandpa. So I got to read those scripts of brilliant directors, got to see raw cuts of films with still the great skill.
Amazing.
And you see the director in the background and know what a great film is going to be, or it's not good. Yeah. And to have the courage to go and have that conversation and say, it's not going to make it. I know it's heartbreaking, but it is what it is. And then when a small-time director's film becomes a big hit, and he congratulates, like you congratulate him when he says, I know it's because of my film, but it's also because of the efforts you put to market.
Of course.
It's beautiful.
Of course. I've got a friend who is a filmmaker. This is years ago, in the late 80s, and he actually would go to the cinema in the US, and he would make sure that the cinema was playing the volume at the right level, the bass was correct, the lighting and this, that, and the other, just to make it makes a difference. The suspense of it all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's even if you think about like Apple, when you open any Apple product and you open the box, they do it so that
slowly. Yes, they are tired. Yes, now everyone started copying. Yeah. So I'd be frustrated. It's crazy. Apple deserves this. You don't do it. Your product is perfect.
We all know it's Apple, right?
Yeah.
So then you came back to some...
I did. Amazon called and they said, hey, we'd like you to come and set up this new function of partner marketing. I love working with partners.
Now, what does that mean for all the unincumbent that done that?
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so that's the third bucket of work that I think about, right? So I did that in Netflix as well. So what that basically means is where a lot of the tech businesses actually a pretty large percentage of our acquisition and growth comes through partners. Microsoft's been doing this forever, Edek. They call it enterprise sales. We call it partnerships. So you could potentially go at it alone, or you could partner up with the likes of telcos, devices, at some point of time, e-commerce sites, etc., and leverage each other's symbiotic strengths, such as customer sets, such as data, such as trust in the market, such as marketing channels. Primarily these four, it can go on, and of course, budgets, etc., to grow each other's markets. So just to give you a simple example, going back to Netflix, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this. When Netflix came before Prime Video came to this market, right? So the thinking was, at that point of time, data was currency. Telco data was currency. You and I probably stopped using SMS. We started using a lot of WhatsApp, right? But how do you get people like you and me to use a lot of data to consume Netflix? Do you see the manage made in heaven?
Yes.
So that's where people like me go in and work with the likes of a Singtel or a Telkomsel or a Globe in the Philippines to say, hey, we have a lot of synergy. How do we market each other's products and each other's services so that the likes of Paul and Dee see it and consume Netflix or Prime Video on your data?
Yeah.
And your R2 goes up. Your revenue per customer goes up. That's one of the ways to look at it. But of course, there are lots of long-term lifetime value.
And are you speaking to your counterpart in those organizations?
We actually end up speaking to cross-functional teams in those organizations. So yes, you're 100% right. We speak to the marketing team. They don't necessarily have a partner marketing team because telcos in general are pretty big. So we do end up speaking to the marketing/product marketing team. We end up speaking to the partnerships team. My colleagues, super smart people in business development, we speak with them, through them, we speak to the business development team, and at times we also speak to the tech.
Wow.
So Amazon's been incredible. So while I feel I realize now it's almost my third year completion in July. So if I learned creative excellence at Netflix, I learned commercial excellence in Amazon.
So interesting.
See, you realize how one is almost like one end of the business and the other is the other end. And a beautiful Frankenstein monster can be made if you just
put it all together.
Put it all together. So the ability to see it end to end, saying that this is where the customer comes in, this is how they are going to buy. And remember, the journey is no longer linear. It's this hugely scribbled line that's become thanks to the internet and social media and whatnot. But how are you going to stay the course with them through your partners and bring them home and make them stay and make money and not lose their sanity?
Yeah.
That gain is what I learned here. And the obsession that the company has with its customer is beautiful. And the last thing I'd say is, I don't think I ever looked at customer journey as much as we do at Amazon. And I owe it all to Amazon to have even taught me. Like when you sign up to something and it's janky, you dislike it. But when it's smooth, you never notice.
Yeah.
Do you ever recall how easy it was for you to sign up to something? But you will recall if it's not easy.
Correct.
So that company is obsessed with making things easy, which is why shopping on Amazon is so easy.
Yeah.
Watching stuff on Prime Video is so smooth. Downloading it on the go on your flight is so smooth and
So which parts of Amazon are you overseeing?
So I, with the partnerships team, we are fortunate to get to work with pretty much all of the organizations.
Oh, you didn't like?
Yeah. So primarily right now it is the e-com and the video businesses, but as the other lines of businesses make their presence felt in Asia, we will be the teams that will help them also be one of the channels that will help them.
What's interesting is the user face. If you're using Amazon Prime, Disney, Netflix, all a little bit different.
Yes.
Right? And then there's it. But I have to say, And because like Netflix is, because they did it first, that it's very fast, it's very dynamic. But I watch more Amazon Prime in terms of the quality, and also with a lot of old movies on it as well.
If you have watched one show, you can watch on Prime Video. It's a show called On Con.
Okay.
And it came on January, and I just was browsing through, and I just started watching it. And it's about two cops in
LA.
In LA.
I started watching.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's addictive.
I'm only into the first episode yet.
Oh my God, I could stop it, and it's so snackable. It's only 30 minutes.
But the funny thing with that I realized I can't watch it late. I watched that late in the evening. I couldn't sleep, so I was jacked up. I was quite cool. Yeah, it's because it's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I finished it that day.
You did, straight through it.
Straight. Oh, maybe over 2 days. But yeah.
It's so interesting.
I love it.
So talk to me a little bit about, having worked with these big names, having, Singtel, Netflix, Amazon, how's it shaped your whole process on digital marketing now? When you put it all together?
I would say that I'm open to change, right? Like, because all of these companies are so dynamic.
Yeah.
They, especially the three that you just mentioned, right? Very open to change, very quick to look outwards and say, hey, this is changing. How do we pivot? Yeah. So if you ask me, in the last 13 odd years, I have mainly done, I want to say 70% digital marketing. I still keep my pulse on the traditional marketing. So we still do some bits about following some markets which are still a little more traditional. I think my outlook is that as a digital marketer, you have to be super specialized in going to where the customer is, especially because there is so much noise. I'll go back to an example in India. At some point of time when I was with Netflix India, there were 40 OTT services clamoring for your attention.
Oh.
As a digital marketer, how do you stand out? That's question number one. How many times and where do you bombard the customer? That's question number 3. 2. Question number 3 is, do you bombard the customer? Question number 4 is, should your ad become a story that can stop the scrolling and inspire a click? So we think about that all the time.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time.
Multi-dimensional though.
It's multi-dimensional. And now let's bring in the complication of AI, which I am so overwhelmed by it. Everywhere is something new, and I'm like, I'll start today, and I don't. But if you ask me, I can sum it up by saying that I think there's a lot of noise. And if you and I, as people who are in the marketing domain, are getting super tired of the noise and see how complicated it is, just imagine how frustrating the GUI is. Yeah. So to cut through the noise, I think the ability to know who, when, where, and how much is too much is very, very important.
I think one of the challenges I saw with Amazon was, I think you guys have cleaned up recently, because I was watching Chicago PD, and it would have, 5 episodes where they wouldn't play. I don't know if you've ever seen that. No, but it was like that. And then I realized that things are changing so quickly. Yes. We're expecting is real time, no glitches, no anything. And that is up, because I remember, you and I are old enough when it was VHS tapes, right? And I remember, and then you think about Netflix, you go back to Blockbuster and how that. So when you think about in the history of business, there's Blockbuster that famously, ran into that brick wall. But then in the business, Kodak, right? Nokia
did not fast enough,
and that's where you have to stand cusp of things. Just share with me, as a woman in business entering these high-profile companies, especially you've got a big personality, which is lovely, got away. What were the main challenges that you faced to navigate that journey?
I have to say, most of the times, I had been made to feel very welcome. And I say this carefully, I said most of the time, right? I think that these companies are very, very open and friendly to having more women play in this game. because they recognize that both creativity and commerce need to play together, and more women can bring that to the table, right? So I've been super fortunate in that. However, that's been 70 to 80% of the time. It would be disingenuous of me to tell you, to not share with you that there have been 20% of the time where, because of this very so-called big personality, I have quite literally been told, and I'm not making this up, by ex-bosses to dim my light. Quite literally, those words were used, saying that you perhaps intimidate the others, and maybe you want to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And when I asked the others if it was true, they said, no, that there's no such thing. Like, why would you? So that I have felt, and I don't think that would have ever gotten to a man. So I did dim my light for exactly 2 days, and I realized that it doesn't work for me.
It's not you. Well, when we first spoke on the phone, one of the things I said to you is, I know a lot of amazing women that in their personal life are very colorful, dynamic, dress up, and at work they're more dowdy. And I always ask, why is that? You're a beautiful woman, you should lean into it. Speak on that, because I think for you, you learn just to lean into everything.
Yes. So I am shamelessly myself, both behaviorally and fashion-wise. So I love a bit of fashion. I will not lie. So I think I style my friends and I drive them crazy. So I comment on their clothes. And like yesterday, we were there for dinner and at a mall, and they were like, what do you want us to do? Come in couture to a mall dinner? Like, why are you commenting on our clothes? But again, being very fortunate to work in a place like Singapore and in companies. Like, if you walked into Netflix, you would see just some really good fashion. Some of my colleagues at Amazon dress beautifully well, right? Like, they bring their full selves to work, and I'm so inspired. I just don't know any other way to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I'm too old, and I would look like shit. It's already part of my French if I dressed any other way.
Yeah.
I feel happy when I'm being myself. I was told back at Unilever by one of my bosses, ex-bosses, that I think you should dress down and work. You're attracting the wrong kind of attention.
Oh, really?
I said, well, the only kind of attention I would like to attract is on the basis of the work that I do. Again, for 2 days, I dressed down. I think I went into depression. So
you can't. You got to be yourself.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about leadership. You are recognized as one of, the premier leaders in developing and marketing. Well, you are. But what have you learned from some of the great people that you've worked for in terms of leadership traits that you try to develop now into your team also?
I want to talk about 3 traits. One is curiosity. As we grow older and mature into the business, we become less and less curious. I've learned that the best way to stay sharp and agile, even as you become a leader, is to stop pretending that you know everything, because you don't. Let's see.
For sure.
So when people call me an expert, I'm like, oh God, if only you know how much I don't know, you would just take that back in like a second. Curiosity, that's one of the things. I think creativity. I think there's a solution to every problem.
Yeah.
It's just which angle you approach it from, who you talk to, what mindset you approach it with, and if you can't solve it today, sleep on it, wake up tomorrow at 5. It is also a very good point. So I learned that from my amazing leaders and sort of people that I've worked. So, and the third, I think, is, you said this, some of the best leaders I've worked with, they have put their people first. They are so secure in who they are.
Yeah.
Because they know that they are smart, they are sharp, and they have nothing to fear from my progress.
Yeah.
By the way, I've seen the exact opposite as
course, yeah.
More than I've seen the first set, for sure. But the first set still remained, and I tell him that to his face, that you are still the best boss I've ever had.
That's wonderful. But it's rare, and you're kind enough to, fortunate enough to come up under someone like that. never take it for granted. What advice would you give to ladies that are coming into the businesses that you've been in, right? In terms of, because they're fast-paced, they're dynamic. What advice would you give young professionals?
I would say know your business context really, really well. Yes, especially if you are in marketing. To be the role of the marketer, whether you're a head of marketing, whether you aspire to be a CMO, or whether you want to thrive in middle management, it has changed so vastly from when, even 5 years back, Paul. The level of direct responsibility that the marketing function is expected to have towards direct business results, I don't think that was the case even 5-7 years back. So today, the conversations between a CEO or the head of business and a CMO or a head of marketing are very, very different. There are conversations about revenue, about acquisition, about ROAS, about LTV, about all of that. So if you do not know those concepts and you are only busy kind of running your campaigns and your ad spends and your ad efficiencies, I think you're going to soon find out that you've hit your ceiling. So I'd say, ladies, it's very important that you know those as well as you know your creative concepts, as well as you know your channels, as well as you know your loops. I think, and I like that. I like that the marketing function is being directly responsible for business, because only when you know can you turn it around on its head and say, okay, you're holding us responsible, but what are the levers you are giving us for us to provide the results that you need? So how much more investment in the business? How much more betterment in the product? How much more betterment in the CX? Those questions you cannot ask if you don't know those concepts.
Well, I think a lot of people maybe try and bullshit things too much and don't do their foundational work. You need to know deep down. This is something I'm curious about. So one of the challenges I think a lot of people have, in particular women, because if a woman is ambitious, it's very difficult to say they're ambitious without potentially backfiring.
Yeah.
How do you balance being healthily ambitious, managing your emotional well-being, right, inside and outside of the office, and being perceived as someone that is, on the rise, but without being degraded for it, or without being, held, there's a lot of jealousy accordingly. How do you find the way to balance all of that? It's not easy.
Oh, wow, that's such a tough question. I don't know if I have the right answer for it.
Well, let's break it down. So, like, for example, ambition, right? Not everyone, but a lot of us are ambitious. Yeah. Some people can say it straight out, okay, this is what I want, and they're unashamed to do so. But sometimes if you do that in a large organization, it can backfire.
Yeah.
So how would you demonstrate it in the right way in your mind?
I am ambitious, and however, I do not disclose that to everyone.
Yeah.
I keep a lot of what I'm working on till it's ready to be presented to myself, and for the reasons that you shared. At work, I am very goals and results focused. I am also very focused on bringing the team along, meaning to say that I do not enjoy success goal. I'm not a low player at all. I just don't enjoy it. Yeah. So to me, my teammate getting promoted is an occasion to pop the champagne, right? So that to me is for me, progress is equal to ambition at work. Has that blown up in my face when I declared that I have gone to my ex-manager about 5-6 years back and said, I love what you do, and how can I become you in the next 1 year? And did that blow up in my face? Very badly. Will I do that again? No, because I learned my lesson. Will I say it differently? Perhaps. Let me phrase that. Other than having learned the lesson, I will say, I love what you do. What can I learn from you that helps me become a better leader without saying?
Yeah.
Because that made her very insecure.
Yes.
And like you said, the very secure breed is very rare.
Yeah.
She was unfortunately the insecure breed. Now, I'm not saying I am completely secure, but my motto in life as a leader is remained unnecessary.
Yeah.
So I use the word carefully, but if you can do my work independent of me, that means I trained a real good team.
For sure.
And if my teammate can become my successor, amazing. But does that mean I'm boldly secure? No, of course not. As a human being, I have insecurities. But if someone comes and tells me, how can I become you? I don't want to say that.
How do you manage the emotional well-being of trying to drive business? Because, there's a lot of pressure, and when you're in a leadership role, something that's often overlooked for those that are not in leadership roles is where you're assuming the responsibility.
Yeah.
If this goes tits up, it's on you.
Yeah.
Right? How do you manage that?
So to me, it's just honestly being very honest and humble. I think I am fortunate to work, my immediate team that I work with, we keep each other pretty balanced. We're very honest with each other. It hasn't always been that way, but I think we have worked on building a relationship that's pretty straightforward. I like that. I don't like the politicizing. And I'm very direct myself, so I will tell you directly to your face with kindness.
Yes,
But I will tell you. I think the other thing that they do not, we take a lot of who we are at work back home, right? So to have a support system at home, now whether that's in the form of friends or your partner or whatever is your self-care routine, is very important. So to me, believe it or not, a way to blow off that stress is obviously my partner is very, very supportive. He is the yin to my yang, right? But another way for me to blow off that stress is actually to help others.
Yeah.
So I feel very relieved when I do one of my pro bono mentoring sessions. And I'm like, okay, if out of those 12 people that came today, if I helped even one,
Yep.
In doing better at the interview that they are going to go to tomorrow or day after, my job is at Epitsa.
It's very rewarding.
It is exactly. That was what I was. It just said.
People really
Exactly.
is.
Exactly.
I'm curious about your lifestyle outside of the office. What do you do in terms of nutrition, exercise? Because you're on the road a lot, right? You travel a lot. You were in Dubai last week. Well, this week was it? Last week, right? So what do you do? How do you keep that all in check?
I would say I can have a 5 to the ice.
Not forget the iPods. Yeah.
Okay, so you're right. I travel a lot. So I have at least this year, I have promised myself that I'll try and work out 3 days a week. My trainer, he's amazing. He's based out of India. I used to work out with him during the pandemic, so it's all online, but I don't know how he magically sees what I'm doing. So he guides me. And then I have this wicked obsession with Spain.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I love Spain.
My wife used to love that. They closed the one down she went to, but she was obsessed with it.
Oh, I tell her a very good studio I go to, but that's on River Valley. So I try and go there once a week. So I wish I could tell you I work out every day. I don't, but it's only 3 or 4 days.
So you've got to a bit of everything, right? Keep it in balance.
Yeah. Well, thanks to my extremely health conscious husband, we eat mostly at home.
Okay.
It's a lot of cooked food is usually pretty healthy. Yeah. So it's a lot of kind of salads and grilled stuff.
Good.
Believe it or not, we don't eat Indian food very much at all. So it's a indulgence if ever.
Okay.
So
Indian food, I love it. My mother-in-law, Shivan Gauri, she will always bring me some curry. But the thing is, I'll put pounds on fast.
I didn't need to sleep right after. So yeah. So and that I think I discovered during the pandemic and saved my life, quite literally saved my life, the power of meditation. So it's just a very simple 21-minute meditation.
That's a long time to.
It's guided. So there is someone's voice in your head. And it's beautiful because it's not religious. It's a mix of Christianity, Hinduism, something from the Quran. And it basically prays for the well-being of the world. So you bless the world. And if a group of people are doing it, then, imagine the amount of blessings coming your way. So It's very beautiful. So I try and do that.
Well, talking back, going back to the dream that you had of your father, or you have of your father. So the day my mum passed away in Quinn country was, and it was, she hadn't been well, but I had spoken with her. I'd gotten back and forth. She lived in Ireland, and my dad had died many years ago, so it was just her. And I had a chat with her, and I said, one get better. I'll take to Japan. I was just trying to
see,
because I was convinced she'd get better, right, in my own way. And she said, "Where are you going on your next adventure?" Because she knows I love traveling. And I said, "I'll take you maybe to Mongolia. I've always wanted to go to Mongolia." She said, "You ship her." And so we had this long chat about it. And anyway, so fast forward a few, maybe 1-2 weeks later, I'm back here in Singapore. And I have to turn my phone from her because I was obsessively looking at it to see if something had happened because she wasn't well. So I turn my phone off, and I have a dream that I'm riding a black horse in Mongolia next to 2 white horses, and they represented my mom and dad. And I woke up in cold sweat, and I thought, shit, I think my mom's passed away. And within maybe a minute of waking up, my wife gets up to go to the toilet, and she gets a phone call on her phone from my cousin in Ireland. So she passed away. And I'm not religious at all. So my wife and I went back to the funeral. We came back. I was back for a day and a half, and I said, "Honey, do you mind? But I think I'm going to go to Mongolia." And I'd never been. And so I screened eye because I said, "Want to come along, man?" Because I was at a Mets, right? When your hand dies, you're in a bad state. And I said, I want to find a way to ride with some horses. So I met this amazing horse whisperer called Puji. And I've ridden horses before, but only a trail ride like in the US, very slowly. And I showed him the video of what I wanted to do. And he said, in his broken English, there's no way. You need to train for a couple of months. I said, what about a couple of hours? We can do this. And
ask me your way.
Yeah, I was saying. So we did a bit of practice, and I said, I think we're ready to go. Anyway, he had paired me with a horse called Milo, which was a Mongolian warrior horse. And he told me, look, Milo likes to go 100% of the time. If you can't slow him down, just take him towards the hillside, go up the hill, we will finally slow down as he'll get tired. So before you know it, we go off. I'll put a video clip of this. We're gone and finish it up. It was exhilarating, but it was very scary because I did think about Christopher Reeves falling off the horse. And you're going at breakneck speed, right? And I'm not an expert. So fast forward, we do it. And I said, yes, amazing. And then I said, no, I want to follow my mother's dream, this dream. Can I go topless and ride the horse, no saddle? And he looked at me, you can't, you have to have a saddle, boom, boom, boom. So I did it. I still went topless. We finished the horse ride. And then afterwards I said, because he said he matched me with Milo because of Milo's personality. So I said, what is Milo's personality? And in his broken English, he said, he also crazy motherfucker.
I love.
But it was such, and poor Isaac, he fell off this horse. So it was, he was okay, but things could go wrong. But it was, these things are very spiritual.
Yeah.
Very spiritual. All right, I've got a few more rapid fire questions for you. So, what's the most impactful marketing campaign that you've ever worked on?
The launch of season 2 of Sacred Games.
That's your baby. I love it. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned about the entertainment industry?
Wow. Most people I met are very, very creative.
Yeah.
And youngers.
Yeah. My son wants to be a filmmaker, and I'm putting it out there, when he wins his Oscar and he's only allowed to bring one person, it's going to be his mum. Even if he's married, I guarantee it's going to be his mother.
Why can't you bring 2?
I don't know. Maybe if he's allowed, I don't know. But if he's only allowed one, I'd imagine. And I wouldn't begrudge him that. B2B or B2C marketing, what do you thrive on more?
That's such a tough one. Or why are you making me choose?
But you could say the same then, right?
Okay, both.
Both. Biggest lesson that you learned from Netflix in the early days when you joined it because you were new
learn to be comfortable in discomfort.
I love it. It's true in all areas of life.
Yeah.
Goggins always talks about that. Okay, what is the one thing that every marketer should truly know?
That what you're looking for, your consumer already knows. We just need to ask the right questions.
That's so true and safe. I always say to my guys, telling is not selling. Ask questions from your customer and they'll give you the answers.
We just don't ask enough questions. We think we know. We are also smart.
Yes.
Yeah, but like, ask more questions.
100%. Your leadership style in 3 words, no swear words, by the way.
Oh, cool. How did you know? Wow, okay. Curious, creative, and collaborate.
I love 3 C's.
3 C's as a marketer. 3 C's.
So in your illustrious career thus far, what's the proudest moment you've had in your career? Tough one, right? Because it could have been the early Sham Unilever, the phone call from Netflix, from Amazon. You got to choose one.
Wow, I have to choose one. I have to say, I think the first time I saw myself on TV,
Really?
or the first time I saw myself on national television, that felt.
What was that for?
That was for a business segment for a news program, and I was covering the opening of a big auditorium, big sports auditorium in Mumbai, which is where the Coldplay concert happened recently.
Wow.
So that was the first ever news story done in that auditorium, and I did that story, and I still remember doing it in one take, and seeing it go live on national television is a core memory. Like,
Yeah.
but I forget that.
Amazing. You know what's really weird is like, so my son, he was very shy. We moved back from the US. I think he bullied a little bit. He was an introvert. And my friend decided to put him into acting.
Acting, right?
He helped. Acting's brilliant. That's what I would say to any Karen. You know, acting, using sports. But the thing about acting is it challenges you in a very unusual way. You have to get up on stage, especially if you do a bit of improv. Yeah. But the funny thing is that he's been in Straits Times a couple of times. He's been on TV. His sister Talia's been on TV. This is when they were younger. Ivana was on my 9-year-old. She was on a big billboard in Paragon, and my wife's always in the newspaper with a job. I was like, guys, this is not common. You know, it's we're very blessed.
It's beautiful.
It's lovely.
But my goddaughter's name is also Tani.
Oh, really? Wonderful.
My best friend's daughter.
Wow. So yeah, my daughter Talia Aberquick. Well, Talia, I chose that name partly because I'm a massive fan of Rocky, and Talia Shire was the actress of Adrian. And I fell in love with the name. When I hear the name, it's a beautiful name. It means dune drop. Yes. You know, it's lovely. Okay, personal life. Who is your female role model and why?
Priyanka Chopra,
Of course.
she just, I mean, I kind of know her story because I was in the industry, and therefore the insiders have kind of told me what she went through.
Well, you see pictures of her, by the way, when she was younger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She looked very different.
Yeah.
She persevered.
Yeah. And then who she is today, and the fact that she built that on absolutely nothing. She's self-made. I have a thing for self-made. You know, like, yeah, exactly.
We were electric, right?
Exactly. So to me, she is everything.
Well, there was a movie that she was in, and it was quite funny. So in the movie, it might have been on Amazon. If I'm wrong. The recent one with Nick. So what happens is her partner dies,
Yeah.
right?
I just want to
she's
love
broken.
again.
Yes.
Love again. Yes, it's on Amazon.
Yeah, it was on Amazon, right? Celine Dion's on it. And I was watching it on my own. And the bit that cracked me up was years after her partner dies, her sister insists that she goes on a date. So she goes on a dating app. Then she goes on a dating app. She goes, this guy's not one of these idiots that really fancies himself, comes in, tight t-shirt, this, that, and the other. And this guy walks in, and the guy acting the part was Nick Jonas. I thought, and it was so funny. It was so tongue-in-cheek. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant. But why I admire her is she's doing it on her terms, and she's here, and she's in the US doing it.
Exactly.
Right.
So look at how many things are against her,
Yeah.
but she plays it by her rules. Yeah. I cannot imagine the strength it takes.
Yeah,
That's why I admire her.
I love that. What's one book or podcast or, one of each that you've recently been listening to or reading that has helped you in the last, year or so?
amazing. I love that you asked that. One book that changed my view on wealth and time is The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I changed the way I think about money, and it's really helped me.
Did you, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, did you always have, I still have, a bad relationship with money because I grew up with none?
Yeah.
So I've always had this conflict, like, am I always going to lose it? Or, I don't know.
So said that book helped a lot. And there was another book, I'm sorry I forgot the name. I spoke to my husband yesterday about it. I used to, like you, suffer from the scarcity mentality. And it always be like, oh, it's going to go away. That book has 7 or 8 practices, which a lot of people will call woo-woo, that it made me do, that changed my attitude towards money. So I finally am open to embracing the abundance mindset. So I believe now that I can have all the money in the world that I want.
Yes.
I can have as much as I do nothing and no one will stand in the way. But it took me all those years. I started that practice in 2020. All that time for me to finally be there. Now I believe it with a vengeance. Like I believe it.
What's funny is I always believed in myself, but I've always been humble.
Yeah.
And I really never found a good boss. And one of my dearest friends, Neil Pope, was back in 2001, 2002. I lost my job because it was 9/11, sucked for a tough time. And I ended up in the job and I was getting paid commission only. And he said to me, took me for a coffee in Republic Plaza. I remember it. He said, you just need to find a boss that can truly see your skill set. I was very young. I was only like 22. And I said, yeah, I just haven't found it. And then fast forward a couple of years later, 2 years later, I was the head of sales for an organization. So I ran Southeast Asia. And I asked the regional head, how much, because the chairman there, but how much do you get last year? The CEO, I said, for $1 million. I said, wow, this was a long time ago. I said, I'd love $20 million. This sounds great. And he goes, mate, you're never going to get that. And I said, why? And then he said, well, you're in the sales role, you're great at open doors, but you can't close doors. And I said, well, that's because are you trying to close doors? There's complex sales. You're not here to well, you told me. And that annoyed me because I was opening the doors, but I didn't have guys in there driving, hustling, right? And he was checking out early every day. And then the last thing he said to me, but quite frankly, I just don't see it. So I went back and I stayed up all night and I wrote down my pros and cons. And the thing is, if you want to follow the past, there's all these conspirations. But I resigned.
You did?
And the next year I earned more than the CEO did.
Oh my God! I said, not that. I rallied.
That's like,
I know.
And it was a, and what I've learned is if you back yourself, right, you don't listen to the no's, you just try your best, you're honest, and you give it everything.
Yeah. You have to give it everything.
Give it everything to the depth. That's all I always say. No retreat, no surrender.
I want to tell you about 2 podcasts that I'm obsessed with.
Please.
One is the Hello 7 podcast with Rachel Rogers. So she's a self-made multi-billionaire, and she in Elizabeth in the US. She's a business coach for marginalized women. I am just obsessed. I'm listening to it all the time and I'm just like, oh my God, she's amazing. And then recently I discovered The Game with Alex Hormozy. He is the CEO of acquisition.com. They help brick and mortar businesses scale. So they acquire and scale that. Love it. I was just blown away about how he explains business concepts and how as an entrepreneur, there are 4 concepts that you need to know and 3 more that is good to know. But if you don't know this 4, don't go into a business. Yeah. And I'm just like getting nails done. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Yeah. Okay, give me more of it. So these, I think, are...
But isn't it funny? A lot of people, I just speak to quite a lot of people. And I know podcasts are catching on. I've been listening to them for years. But look, if you're going for a walk or a run, I mean, if you go for a walk, and walking is underrated by Gary, right? If I'm an exactly... I think it's because you low impact.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It's brilliant. But you go for a walk, you listen to a podcast, you come back with this wealth of knowledge, and you're invigorated. It's powerful. Bam. There's no better way to spend an hour.
A flight. Yeah. Flights especially. Yeah. And for ladies, when we are getting our nails done, oh my God, I am not.
Excuse me, I got my toenails done this morning by my 9-year-old. She goes, Daddy, this one come off for at least a month. I said, okay, thanks, hon. She wanted to do my fingernails. I said, no, I've got a podcast.
I love that.
You know, I was sitting there.
That you have outsourced the work in-house.
You know what I mean? But it wasn't very relaxing for me because she said, Daddy, sit still. Do this, do that, don't move. It was, I mean,
She's an expert.
she is an expert. As I told you, she's the CEO of this family. But actually, one of the things I used to do when I was younger, I used to help coach women that were rape victims, you know, self-defense and martial arts. And that was emotionally very traumatic, right? And I was very young, so I probably couldn't process it. But the interesting thing is, I don't know how, and maybe I think I learned this from my mother, because my mother was a very intuitive woman. She's my female model, like my wife is my second wife. But when I meet people, it's very weird, in particular with my career coaching. At least 90% of my female career coaching types cry in the first session. It's really weird.
Really?
Yeah, they tell me things and I listen, and you know, and I feel very privileged, but it can be a little bit emotionally draining. But because I find, you know, I'm privileged by it. But the other funny thing that I find really interesting is I can sense if someone has had a lot of trauma, in particular in their childhood. When I speak to somebody, if they've had physical, sexual trauma, most of us have been through some sort of mental error. But at the same time, I find it quite tiring.
And be mad.
Because you come, you know, like someone's, you know, so I used to have a personal trainer who was a dear friend of mine. And one time he was going through a hard time. I said, I hate to be horrible to you, but this is my sanctuary. Yeah. When I'm coming to work out with you, we can talk about it another time, the evening or whatever. But during this, because we've become friends, I said, I'm here for war. I'm here to push myself. And this is me getting away from everything. Yeah. But, you know, we all have those different moments. If you could live in one city for the rest of your life, I'll put you on the spot now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really.
If not Singapore, right now I'm currently obsessed with Dubai.
You love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they say that come back in summer and then you change your mind. Yeah. So maybe.
But it's like anyway, like the thing about Singapore is it has everything.
It has everything.
Yeah. Yes. And you know, I love traveling, so I just have to get out of here.
Yeah.
Every now and again. But like the food, the people.
In Singapore is so close to perfection that, you know, it's difficult to answer that.
It is tough.
Yeah.
If you were in marketing, what would you do?
Oh my God. I would be a stylist. I would be...
You're a stylist.
And I don't get paid for it. I get paid to style people.
Not yet.
Not yet. I would be probably still on TV. I would be absolutely useless and be a beach bum. One of those three things.
You could do all three of them in your future. You know, why not?
Damn, now you give me some ideas.
So give me guilty pleasure TV show. Let's be honest. Okay. What do you watch that is, because I know my wife watches loads of crap in this.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. I watch a lot of crap as well. The Bible on Netflix.
You love it.
No, it's hideous. What is with those people?
You're watching it?
Yeah, but they're squabbling like genius. Like, oh my God, you're so bad. The really good show right now that I'm watching is on Apple TV, which is The Morning Show. I know I'm late to the party, but just I've been in that world. It's, oh my God, it's beautiful.
You get a peek behind me, know what's going on.
Correct. And like I said, I was Encore on Prime Video. I'm going to watch Unstoppable and the new Korean show that launched yesterday. Okay. It's called Utopia. So I'm actually quite a fan of Korean shows. So I watched them on the slide because my husband does. I watch them today.
You see, what I don't like about shows is if it's like over 8 episodes, like why I like movies is I think a movie you have to really think about how you're going to write that. If it's an hour after 2 hours, there's so much character development.
Yes.
And why I've thought about it's long and hard. If you have a movie and it's centered around this one person who's iconic, if you go back to our childhood, you remember it. But if it's dragged out over 8, 10, 12, so you get a lot more character development, but you don't remember this one thing that happens.
Correct. You're so right. At the Morning Show, I'm trying to remember three situations about Alex Newey that I really, really like about her, but she's a very difficult character to like because she goes through this arc where she is so super selfish.
Yeah.
and then she hopefully becomes a better person. But then you're so right, because if you ask me what those 3 moments, I may not be able to recall them.
It's not like yours.
Yeah.
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've got a feeling I'm hoping we'll do this again.
Oh my God, absolutely.
You know,
Discuss.
thank you so much.
Thank
Lovely.
you. I've been on some podcasts, but let's just say that this has been this is therapy.
Really? Oh, you're such
Yeah, I'm very sure you just have such a fascinating style to do this.
I'm learning, right? I'm still new at this. So I guess I've been interviewing people for 30 years, but as I said, the format's different. So
Yeah, but you make it sound like quite literally a chat in the living room.
But it is, right?
That's exactly. But then, how things get formal, but it didn't. So, thank you for that.
Cheers.
Thank you.